All right, everyone. I'm not sure if you saw, but we're going to do nothing else today but go over any questions that you may have. I did load this just moments ago to give you the opportunity just to kind of gauge where you're at, what you're doing. I will do a couple of them if I don't have any requests. But what you can do is take a look at any of the questions that are in here. You've been working quite extensively on two no reassignments over 3 sections. I do believe I've been able to answer many of the questions that have been asked of me, and then if any of them do require some working out, I do post them worked out via Google Classroom. So this actually was supposed to be a quiz that you were going to get today. Should have been a really short quiz, but still would have probably taken us a little bit of time because of the common denominators and simplifying, but I wanted to kind of give you still the look at what we would have done today. Later, thank you, Mrs. Habermill. Later today, I will post these answers so that you have the opportunity to look at them and to kind of see what maybe you could have done. Again, treat this kind of like your quiz. If you would have had it in class, you wouldn't have had the answers. So consider this your opportunity to quiz yourself to see where you're at. I will tell you later on, you will receive a written document that I do anticipate you will obviously have to do on loose leaf paper, and we are expecting you to be able to either take screenshots of that and email it to me, or scan it in on your own devices and then also email it to me. That way we are capable of grading that and giving you some written work. So with that being said, if you are able to pull that up in Google Classroom, or if you have any no-re questions, ask away. My first one that I want to discuss would be the number 1 on this, and it does give us the 2x, x minus 3 on top, and then x plus 4 and x squared minus 9 on the bottom. And this particular question from our chapter 8, section 1 and 2 review specifically asks, where is it undefined? So we did talk about only having to worry about our undefined terms if we're asked. So right away, the first question concentrated on this. So where are the terms undefined? If I know there's 9 of you watching, at least that's what it tells me. And I'm going to give you a second to kind of take a look at where are they undefined. I'm not sure if a couple of you that are as obsessed with markers as I am, but here is what my marker stash looks like today. So it's been a fun morning getting organized. Again, looking at that, any ideas where they're undefined? I do agree. -4 and 3 are part of it, but we have to take a look at there's possibly one more. And thank you, Ren, for participating. It does make things easier on my end. I do think for you guys, I'm going to try Zoom. I played around with it last night for quite a bit, just trying to get a feel for it. And I'm thinking maybe we can try Zoom. There you go. Thank you, Sabrina. So let's take a look at a couple ways that we can do this. We are only worried about the denominator. Whatever happens in the numerator can be, but we need to worry about our denominator. So we want to take where x plus 4 equals 0, and we want to take into account where x squared minus 9 equals 0. And as long as we know where those equal 0, that's what it's not allowed to be. So when we subtract 4, we find out that x would end up being -4 if it makes it 0. And then over here, we end up with x squared equals 9. And this is where, when you take the square root, you end up getting stuck with the positive and negative. So x would be plus or minus 3. So we have to make sure that we have plus or minus 3. Now, it ends up that on top, if you plugged in a 3, you'd get 0, but that has absolutely nothing to do with what's allowed to happen in this equation. So when we, or this expression, when we list where it's undefined, we would say x cannot be -4, -3, or 3. So make sure when we're looking at our denominator, we are solving for where those values end up being 0. Now, again, if you have any questions from your assignments or any questions from any of the worksheets that I've provided, please make sure you ask. I do plan on loading, again, like I said, there will be a written assignment that we will be holding you accountable for. Both Honors Algebra 2 classes will be doing the exact same written assignment, so I don't want that to go unspoken. But if we have any other questions, please ask. I'm scrolling through the PDF right now, and I'm looking to see if anything specifically stands out that you would need to make sure you considered. I would say, if anything, 3, 4, and 5 would make me pause a bit. They look a lot more involved. I'm not sure what your feelings are, but please ask. Otherwise, if we don't have questions, I will end our session early today to allow you to work, to get caught up, and to attempt the quiz that this would be. All right, so let's take a look at number 4. It is, I would say, pretty daunting just to look at. I'm going to rewrite the whole thing as it is. So we have 3m squared minus 12 over 4m squared plus 8m and 6m minus 12 over 8m squared plus 16m. All right, 3m squared minus 12, 4m squared plus 8m, 6m minus 12, and 8m squared plus 16. All right, want to make sure, because goodness knows I've made mistakes in the past. Okay, and I can look to do another example with complex fractions. So the first thing with this one, I am going to combine I'm going to go ahead and combine both factoring and taking a look at how to keep change flip. So when I look to factor the top one, I will end up making this guy on top. Let's change colors before I get too far. So my top fraction will factor into 3 times m squared minus 4 over 4m, and then this is m plus 2. And I'm going to change this to multiplication, and then my bottom fraction we're going to flip, and I'm going to factor out an 8m, and I'm going to end up with m plus 2, and then over here is my 6 times m minus 2. Okay, so let's just make sure I didn't make any mistakes. Bottom is now on top, so we pulled out an m and an 8, m plus 2, we pulled out a 6, and we have n minus 2. All right, so now when we look at this, I don't want to forget that this guy right here, what do we call that guy? I want to make sure that we don't forget, what's that guy called? As I look up a complex, another complex fraction, to make sure. Anybody know what that's called? I'm writing down. All right. Yep, thank you, Sabrina. It is the difference of two squares. So in the next one, I need to factor this to m minus 2 and m plus 2. The bottom would now be 4m times m plus 2. We end up over here with 8m and then m plus 2 and 6m minus 2. And I know that when I would do this for homework, I probably still would write it all out, but a lot of people like to write things above and below so that it saves space. Entirely your choice. I don't care, obviously, but I would be careful to do too much in one step. So again, top to bottom, these two can cancel. These two can cancel. I end up with my 4 and my 8 canceling. I end up with the 3 and the 6 canceling, and that left me with 2's. So now what that means is I can also cancel out those 2's because we end up with 2 on top and 2 on the bottom. So those guys will cancel. I can also cancel the m's. So interestingly enough, after everything is said and done, we have a very small reduced fraction here, and it ends up being simply m plus 2. So a lot to start with, very little when all is said and done. Okay. I know Laura asked for another with a complex fraction, so I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to give you a second to copy it all down. I'm going to zoom in a tad so that we can go ahead and see it. Here is, let's get this out of the way so I can scan it later. And we'll do that. And I'll give you a second to copy that guy down. Again, if you have any questions from your no reassignment, if you have any questions on what I just posted, please ask. And when you guys feel comfortable, I won't hold you here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, again, work with just the top of our fraction. So as long as you've got that under control, I am going to hide the top of, or the bottom of it, so that all you can see, and it kind of works better for me that way, just so I don't feel as overwhelmed. So we're going to turn that into this. And I'm going to concentrate that this one's LCM, the common denominator, is going to be r and r plus 2. So that means top and bottom here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply this top and this bottom by the r plus 2 that I still need. And then on this side, I need to multiply top and bottom by r. So the top is then going to turn into, after I FOIL this one, r times r, and then r times 2, 6 times r, and then 6 times 2. I have to worry about our FOIL method. So we end up with r squared plus 2r plus 6r plus 12. Then I need to make sure that I don't forget that that minus sign is still sitting here, and that's going to be 1 times r. So that's going to end up with a negative r. And that's all over the common denominator, r times r plus 2. All right, so then that goes back over this, and I'm going to factor this as we go, just so that we can make sure that we're not falling behind on anything. And I can see that a 3 times 1 is 3, 3 plus 1 is 4. So we can factor this into r plus 3 and r plus 1. And I'm going to factor the bottom. I know I didn't simplify the top yet, but I'm just going to kind of take this in as many steps as I can. And down here is r times r plus 2. So that's this guy. All right, and we know the top still stays here. So the next step, now that I have everything as a fraction divided by a fraction, here is where we're going to worry about that whole keep, change, flip. So now that we have a fraction divided by a fraction, this is where we're going to keep, change, flip. And I want to concentrate on the fact that I can't do the division until it's one fraction. So when we were on top here to begin with, we had two fractions that were grouped in the numerator, only one in the denominator. So what I had to do is I had to make sure that I grouped that. So this is now going to be r squared. 2 plus 6 is 8, minus 1 is 7, plus 7r plus 12. And there's my go-to. That's kind of funny. R times r plus 2. The simple pleasures. Keep. We're going to change the sign. So now instead of division, we've got our multiplication. And then we're going to flip the bottom guy. And I am going to annoy some of you, and I apologize. I'm going to change these back to the colors that they were on top so they match. That way I don't have to rewrite all this later. So there's our top. We changed our sign, and now we're going to flip the bottom, and we end up with r plus 2 times r. And then on the bottom, we now have r plus 3 and r plus 1. So the only thing that I need to worry about now is factoring the numerator. And like I said, that's the one that my go-to for whatever reason. R plus 3, r plus 4, and our r times r plus 2. At this point, some of you have already reduced. We have our r and r plus 2, r plus 3, r plus 1. And at this point, we're going to cross cancel. And we are left with none of those. So the r's are going to cancel, the r plus 2's are going to cancel, the r plus 3's are going to cancel, and my final answer is just the r plus 4 on top and the r plus 1 on the bottom. So truly, we need to make sure that we get a fraction over a fraction. So when you see that there's more than one fraction, we have to be able to get our common denominator to combine it so that we have a fraction divided by a fraction to then do our keep, change, flip. So we have r plus 4 over r plus 1. Any other questions, ladies and maybe gentlemen? I only see ladies' names, so I'm going to assume that we've got somebody out there. Awesome, thanks. You also do another example of adding and subtracting. Okay, let's see if I can find another one like that that would be worth our while. While I'm looking, I would like to know how many of you are interested in doing a Zoom session where we would be able to, I would probably say, talk in real time. That way, maybe we can answer and ask questions a little bit nicer, a little faster. Not sure what your thoughts are. I don't like this. I'll be able to see through that. I know I'm a little leery, but I did practice. Okay. I'm hoping, Sabrina, that is something you're looking at. Kind of has addition and subtraction in there. I agree. That's That's my concern too, is how many are actually going to jump on board and do that. I know that we all shared our times as to when we were going live or what we were doing and when, so I don't know how many are paying attention to that. I guess we'll just have to figure out what gets involved and who's doing what. Before I begin, I'm going to kind of do this problem the way you guys might. And I already can tell that this bottom guy is going to factor into a plus 3 and a minus 3 because, again, it's the difference of two squares. So what I want to do is see that so that I know what my common denominator is going to be. If you need to, I still would list your common denominator, your LCM, just so that you keep track if the questions get bigger, what it's supposed to be. And I am certain we can all see that the only two that exist throughout this whole thing is a minus 3, a plus 3, and then we have them right here already. So when I go through this and I start the work, I'm going to only have to multiply this bottom one here by a plus 3, which means multiply the top. Multiply this one by a minus 3 and do the same on top. And then I don't actually have to do anything over here because I already have both of them. So now all I have to worry about is, in this case, thankfully, just distributing. I need to take my 2a to the a and my 2a to the 3. I need to make sure I pay attention to the negative sign that's going to go with our 2a to the a and our 2a to the 3. So the next step, what color? Let's try this color. We end up with 2a squared plus 6a from this guy, 2a squared plus 6a. We're going to have minus 2a squared. Negative 2a times a is a minus 2a squared. Negative 2a times a negative 3 is still going to now be our positive 6a. And then we do have our plus 36. That's kind of sitting here all by itself. All of that goes over what we know is the common denominator, which is a minus 3, a plus 3. So when I go and group this, I am hopeful that we can see that our 2a squared and our negative 2a squared are going to cancel. And we end up with 12a plus 36 over a minus 3, a plus 3. And again, what we have to make sure is that we don't have anything left. I am going to factor out a 12, and that does leave me with a plus 3. Which then allows me to cancel the a plus 3s. So our final answer is 12 over a minus 3. All right. You guys got anything else? You can always email me throughout the day if you've got questions. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and work out your quiz. I won't load those answers till later today, so it's not too, I know you guys got a busy day, and right now it's sunny. It's supposed to rain later, maybe get some fresh air. But I will load those answers. Treat this like the quiz it would have been if it was in class. and see how well you did, and then grade your papers accordingly. Keep them because, like I said, we are going to have a written requirement here shortly um, that I'm going to load, and that way you can kind of get a jump start on it if you wish. The only thing you need to worry about right now is those 3 no reassignments. And if anybody can get a hold of Carter, I'd like him to join us. I keep trying to contact him, but I cannot. So I would really appreciate it if we can try to get a hold of him. So hope everybody's doing well. Let me know if you have any questions, and if not, I'm going to hang here for a couple more seconds. And if not, I'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Gus. I appreciate that. I've been trying to contact him as well, so I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, guys, have a great weekend.